So, this is the first little progress report of Nypples. It's not Peggle's, I swear, clone of a Pachinko game that's supposed to be all 8-bitty. So there's only like 5 little assets right now. We got some vector class for some math stuff. The actual game runs inside of a main loop. Some stuff to do some graphics. What else have we got? So we got, right now all we have is pegs, which are basically the same thing as the balls, which go through the Pachinko machine, except the pegs don't move, obviously. Except, maybe they will later, I don't know. So if you've ever played something like Peggle, you know the pegs can disappear after you hit them or something like that, and we can have them move or whatever. Maybe do some crazy stuff with it later too. This is the only really interesting part of the entire program at the moment. So this is kind of like doing some physics. So you basically like step along your velocity vector, which gets affected by some gravity and stuff, and this in turn affects your position. So that's fine and dandy, but basically if that's all you do, then everything just falls, like, right? Because you're not actually colliding with any pegs. So what we have here is you go through a collection of every peg that you've been passed through to this little function that does all this physics stuff. You go through each one of these pegs that you've been given, and you compute the vector between the ball that you're looking at and each of these pegs, and you call that delta. Get the squared length of it and see basically if the square of that is less than the distance that they should ever be apart, right? So if the peg is supposed to be a radius of 7 and the ball is a radius of 7, you add those together, you get 14. So if the distance between them is ever less than 14, then you know that these are interpenetrating. So to avoid the actual length thing, you just look at the square of them. It's obvious hack. And right, and then we actually need the distance, so we take the square root back if they were penetrating. This is some simple little 2D vector stuff. So what you do is, if they are penetrating, you move the ball so that it is at the closest point near the peg where it's outside of the peg again. And then we just do some little reflection stuff to get the velocity to kind of bounce away at reflecting. And this little rest thing over here is basically accounting for some loss of energy, like the coefficient of restitution or whatever. This is just so it won't bounce indefinitely. All that said, it's not really that exciting, so I mean, literally that's it. And I'm not even using sprites at the moment, so if I run this, you can actually see that they bounce around a little bit and stuff. This guy actually got stuck in between two. These red guys are the pegs, and the green guy is obviously the ball. Run a couple more little random things. So yeah, obviously we're gonna. Wow, that was terribly uninteresting. So obviously going to be fitting a lot more physics and a lot more features and things, and actually making this into something you can play. But yeah, that's kind of like the first little status report. Yeehaw.